Hey guys, welcome to the Hypertrophy Hub podcast. So this week I'm speaking to Joel Lata and Jason Clark. So they are the co-owners of Northshore Barbell. So Northshore Barbell, the one thing that I find really fascinating, we were kind of talking about this a little bit off air, is it's like the thing that's quite evident quite early on once you sort of look into this gym. It's like you see then it's pretty obvious they're not doing it for clout or money or like shit like that. It's like they're not some massive franchise, but it's like the thing that I find that's really, really cool is like I've only been there once, but I've watched a lot on social media. I know a lot of people that go there, and it's like just like the community aspect of it is just crazy because it's like you go to any other gym, like I go to a sort of chain gym, and it's just like it's not the same. Like it's like you go there and then you sweat on machine and then you leave and then maybe you say hi to one person. But it's like when I see you guys at your gym, it's like people know each other. There's actual community. Like people want each other to succeed. It's pretty. I don't know. It's pretty fascinating. So would you guys sort of be able to, in whatever fashion you would like, recap sort of what is the gym, and then like why did you start it, and how did it get from the very, very beginning? What happened at the start and to where it is now?
Yeah, I think I can start on that one, and then Joel can chime on. And because we both have like kind of, I guess, two different paths to where we are now, and he'll elaborate on that. But yeah, just to kind of explain it in a bit more depth, Joel and I run a powerlifting gym in Birkenhead. It's called Northshore Barbell. Just a small community-based gym, as James sort of alluded to. And yeah, it's a 24-hour facility, and basically it's built on the community of powerlifting more so than anything. But yeah, so we came into, or I should say, I came into Northshore Barbell just basically more so as a powerlifting team than an actual gym. Myself and a few others from the North Shore, if you guys are familiar with some of the North Shore powerlifters like Alex Orwin, Sam Tilby, and I think back in the day was like Chris Tan, if anyone knows Chris Tan, bit of a bodybuilder now. So a few guys like that, a few OGs. Basically, we're all living and training on the North Shore and didn't quite have the cohesive sort of team environment there. So at the time, Alex was running a gym called HPC. I can't remember what the acronym actually stands for, but what was it, Joel? Can you remember?
Human Performance
Center. Yeah.
Yeah.
So although they had their own gym, they kind of had a loose team, and then there was a few of us still living on the shore kind of training. So long story short, we banded together and made a powerlifting team for, I think it was 2015 or 2016 Aucklands, because at the time there was a bit of a push for like a team sort of thing at the regional champs. So there was like Get Strength, New Zealand Powerlifting Academy, and then we entered a Northshore Barbell team. So that was basically where it started. It was just kind of like, hey, let's put a team in. Because I think the year prior they'd competed as HPC, but there was still a few of us on the cusp there, and they kind of wanted a different name for it. So we put a team in, kind of, I made a logo on Paint, which is still our logo today, funnily enough. And then we got some T-shirts printed, and that was kind of where the whole thing started. Honestly, like it was a few years of just like being a bit of a team environment in the sense that we would, like I think we went into HPC a few times and trained like as, I guess, a team. And we would go into Get Strength and train as a team. And it wasn't so much a gym then. It was just more like, hey, let's represent the North Shore in a really roundabout way. Although we only see each other every now and then, but when we would get together, it was quite fun. So fast forward a few years of just kind of competing as a team, and we actually stumbled across a space upstairs at a CrossFit gym. One of our former members, Andy Flint, he'd kind of just been in the fitness industry for a long time. Worked with some rugby league teams and things like that. He just had lots of contacts. So he knew the owner for CrossFit Auckland, who had a spare space basically in the gym that they wanted to lease out. And he kind of threw the idea at myself. And I was a little bit like, oh, because I was training at home at the time. And that was technically Northshore Barbell 1.0, because I was just training at home with my brother in the garage, where we had like far too high tech equipment for what we were training out of, like a full $5,500 Leco set. For some reason, I thought that was a good investment straight off the bat.
In a humid garage.
Yeah, far too much. But basically, he kind of contacted us and was like, "Hey, I know you've got some stuff at home. Like, I want to put together a space, and I think we could like really build this Northshore Barbell brand." And I was like, "Oh, I kind of like training at home. It's a bit far of a drive all the way to Albany. I live in Devonport, so traffic sucks." And then he kind of got us together somehow. And I actually can't remember, Joel. This is where you can kind of interject. Did he just contact you? How did you even know Andy?
So I'd met him, I think, at like Nationals at Oceania's the year before in Christchurch, because he was selling A7. And he knew that me and my wife had just moved up, and that we'd previously trained in our garage and like I had equipment. So he just like hit me up. But yeah, I'd never met you before, and I think I'd met like Alex once.
Yeah, so Joel had just kind of been literally like shipped up to Auckland from Christchurch through the warehouse group where he works, and they shipped all this stuff up here, and you didn't really have anywhere to store it, Joel? Like, it was just in your house, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it turns out that garages are really scarce in Auckland. So are reasonably sized houses. So it was all stored under the house for like the first week, and the rack was maybe 2.2 meters high. So there was no way that was getting put up under the house. So we were a bit frazzled trying to find a place to train and whatnot.
Yeah. So like basically Andy got us all together, and I actually recall being really hungover, sitting in this really hot, like upstairs space at a gym, and I was like, "Fuck, this is horrible. I don't want to train here." But somehow, like, it all just kind of seemed to make too much sense not to kind of dive into. And I think we actually went to Macca's afterwards and sat down and were like, "Actually, I think we should do this." So, I'm I guess a man of habit, and I was broken from my habits of training at home, I guess. And we just kind of went in, and like that space was really like the start of like what I would call the real start of Northshore Barbell. That's where we built our team. Like, there was like basically the people I talked about prior, and then the injection of Joel and Jackie, who'd moved up from Christchurch, and then also Andy, and I think we got another couple of people come and train. But basically how that whole space worked was we put our gear there. The CrossFit people pretty much had use for it whenever they wanted it. So we put all our gear in the gym, and Alex still had some stuff over from HPC. And then they just took the memberships from that. I think we were even paying a membership.
We were paying like a small membership, sort of as like rent.
Yeah, so we were just paying a small membership, and the CrossFit gym owner would basically take the money from the membership and like, put that towards their business. So that was essentially like what we were paying to lease the space out, and all just with the kind of idea of like, let's just have somewhere to train that we can all kind of train together. Because at the time, I was, like I said, training at home. Joel had nowhere to train, and I think Alex was training at AUT. So it just kind of made sense. And I think we were at CrossFit Auckland for actually a couple of years, and we kind of built.
Years, I think.
Yeah, about 2 years. We had like an opening day. We hosted a couple of competitions there downstairs. It was actually a really good time. Now that I reflect upon it, it was cool. It was a little bit less stressful in a sense, but yeah. And then you can maybe touch on how we kind of came to the new premise, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, like we'd hung out there for a couple of years, and as Jason said, it was pretty fun for us. It wasn't, and we sort of just like welcomed new people in as they became interested or moved into the area. Although we could only train between certain times because the space was shared with like a PT, and they used it for like kids classes and whatnot. So we had our gear scattered on the sides of the room, and I'd use the rest of it. And we slowly accumulated more bits and pieces. Like, we all put in a little bit of money to buy some nice bars from Australia and all that kind of thing. And like Jason and his brother Paul like got a really good deal on a heap of old cast iron plates, and it sort of just like grew from there. it was really organic and fun, I guess. But sort of what led us to the want and the time we moved in to actual Northshore Barbell was, I can speak for myself, I'd always sort of like wanted a gym that was sort of my own space, especially after going to places like Barbell Brigade in Los Angeles and seeing like how sick that was and how much of a community feel it had. And I guess we felt somewhat restricted by inhabiting a space that wasn't our own as the Northshore Barbell membership base grew. Oh, there's my cat. And that led us to sort of weighing up our options and seeing what we can afford. And lo and behold, a small CrossFit space became available where the gym is now. And after a bit of negotiating, we moved in and purchased some more equipment and, signed that lease and assumed all the risk.
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing where I look at it and I'm like, Jesus, like I couldn't even, like, it's like for me, if I was actually running a gym, I would shit myself. It's just like, I don't know, that it just for me, like my business is like, I'm not assuming any risk. Like there's no real risk for me, but it's also like the upside is probably smaller, I would say. But it's like when you guys were going into it, my second question was going to sort of be like along the lines of like, why a powerlifting gym? But I feel like it's relatively obvious. Like it kind of just organically started. Do you feel like it was, would you ever think about moving into a more broad sense, or do you ever think about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. So the first thing, sorry, I'm just writing some things down. The first thing there, which you mentioned, was like, it does seem very overwhelming, like to be like, okay, let's just start up a gym, just go deep, let's just dive deep on this shit. It like as you can tell by the length of that story, this was built up. Man, this was built up years and years in the process. I think I actually, it might even be on a website. Like I drew up a logo for Northshore Barbell in 2011. Wow. And like I know that sounds like kind of cliche, but it's just kind of how it went. And I always kind of wanted to open a gym. So like I've been buying shit since 2011 to like, that I could potentially use, in hindsight, that stuff is not really usable anymore, but it's a bit rusty. But that was kind of like always what I envisioned. So we really didn't have these like huge daunting startup costs. And I think like a really important thing to kind of mention there is we have a really good relationship with Auckland Powerlifting in the sense that we basically run Auckland Powerlifting. Like we're on the committee, we do a lot of the shit. I mean, to be fair, the president, Darren Neves, does a lot of the work, but outside of that, there's like a few other people like John Strachan, if you know who that is. And then basically a whole bunch of Northshore Barbell members, which kind of run the committee. So we have a really good relationship with Auckland Powerlifting, which luckily enough for us means that we can utilize a lot of the equipment because the equipment needs to be stored somewhere. It used to be stored at Fitness Plus, which is a place out in Manukau, and then the relationship fell apart. So it needed to go somewhere, and that just really like conveniently coincided with us kind of having Northshore Barbell. And, some of the equipment's also split across Get Strength as well, which is another powerlifting gym in Onehunga. So our entry costs going from the CrossFit space in which we didn't have huge overheads because we pretty much weren't the gym at all, to this weren't huge. And I think like, we talk about this all the time because obviously with the current situation, gyms are kind of like struggling and stuff, but we just don't have huge overheads. Like we pay rent and we're a small space. I mean, powerlifting's a good kind of thing to jump into because you don't need that much equipment because everyone kind of works in together, and you only need a barbell and plates. The things that are expensive if you look at starting up a gym are cable crossovers, lat pull downs, treadmills. You could get a full Alico set for the price of a treadmill. So it's a good one. And I think that's why like powerlifting style, strength style gyms are gaining in popularity, just because people like doing that stuff now, and it's just not as much of a startup cost. So yeah, I guess long story short, it is essentially just like built up over time just made that whole kind of buy-in, I guess, a little less daunting as a whole. Sorry, go on, James.
I was gonna say, it's like, do you feel as though, like, it's for me, it's like for me, I probably would never start a gym, just because it's like, with hypertrophy, it's like, it's not really unique. It's like, oh, cool, like, you need the same shit, like, but it's like, I feel like for powerlifting, it's like, there's kind of places where like there's barbells and there's plates, but it's not powerlifting, you know. Like, I feel like you guys have started a space that's like, this is for powerlifting. Like, I remember when I went there, I was like, whoa, like as a hypertrophy athlete, like, this is not optimized for me, but it's very obvious that it's optimized for powerlifting. And it was just like, if I ever start powerlifting, you know, it's like, it's just, and it's like that culture of like as you said, like, working in together. It's like, for hypertrophy, people don't do that. It's like, and it's just a whole different, it's like a whole different thing. And I just find that very cool.
I think Joel could probably speak on that a little bit. And I think, because I think a lot of it, and I don't know 100%, but I think some of it comes down to like the different sort of team mentalities that go into like powerlifting in comparison to bodybuilding. So I don't know, Joel, what do you think? You've come from bodybuilding.
I think like you can kind of powerlift anywhere, right? But it doesn't make that space or that gym a powerlifting gym. It's more about like community. In a true powerlifting gym is somewhere you can go and hang out before or after work and like talk shit for a couple of hours with your mates. Like for us, it's and I believe also most of our members, it's just about socializing as much as it is about lifting heavy. And I guess with a normal gym, you can't just sort of hang around gas bagging for a couple of hours, because you'll probably be asked to move along or stop hogging the equipment and all that kind of thing. And that's kind of the antithesis of our mantra, I suppose.
Do you?
Yeah.
Has like COVID kind of challenged that a little bit? Because it's like, I mean, we all went back to nearly normal life on Thursday or something. It's like, do you feel like it's like that kind of social aspect of it is being challenged a little bit by this whole mess?
Weirdly, not for us, I don't think. I mean, like, we've got a group chat going with our members, because we don't have a huge membership base, certainly not anything like the chain gyms or anything. So we know all our members. We were talking to them the whole time through lockdown. And it's not motivational stuff. It's legit just conversations about dumb shit. You know, and we loaned out the equipment to the members and whatnot, so they could continue training. And since we've come back, you know, other than the fact we can't really work in with each other, and we've got to spend an excessive amount of time cleaning plates and bars after we use it, we're all sort of just slotted back into normal life. Still trying to motivate each other and give each other a bit of shit when you're training like a pussy and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like nothing really changes in my gym, because it's like, oh cool, like still no one talks to each other, so whatever. It's like, and like that's the thing. I wish I do wish that I could like powerlift properly, or like hypertrophy had a similar kind of culture, because it just seems like the social aspect of it as a gym, it's like, that is just, I find that quite unique, because it's like the only other gyms that I think might have that is maybe like a CrossFit gym, but even then I don't think it would be to the same extent, just because of the way powerlifting is set up. It's like, what are you doing during those rest times? Probably talking. Like,
yeah, I mean, like we the thing is, like, I guess the way I see it is like a lot of us like spend all day like looking at lifting and shit online, and instead of just like kind of like looking at that yourself and like being like, oh, that's awesome, it's like you get to the gym and you're like, oh, did you see like so and so did this? And you know, like even just before, like I messaged the group and was like, oh, did you see Ashton Rauska squat 700 for 5 and pull 800 for a double? You know, and then we just talk shit about that. And then
that's pounds, by the way.
Yeah, that was pounds. Freedom units. But like, you know, and then you introduce someone like Kedrick, who's joined the gym, who I know you've had on here, and then that like breadth of conversation just widens. Like, you know, we can talk, like Joel loves water cuts, so like they can go deep into that, and like I guess the bigger, the more broad the community gets, like just I guess it's just people, man. It's just I feel like people join just to come in and talk shit about lifting. Like, and obviously, like, and like another thing, like we have comp specific equipment, which is a big pull for a lot of people because, training at, you train at Just Workout, right? For the majority. Yeah. So I used to work at Just Workout, and like, I would train on rubber based plates with whippy bars, and, thinking I'm boss dog, and then you go into competition and it's just a world of difference, like going to like
stapled.
Yes, stiff bars and metal plates. It's a different feeling. I don't know why. Someone may know why, but I don't know why. But it's enough for people to be drawn to comp specific equipment. And I think that, aside from community and things like that, it is a big pull that people appreciate that we have on offer.
Do you feel as though, like, as the powerlifting community kind of grows, like I know you guys just sort of did a thing with Get Strength where it's like you can train at the other gym once a week. So it's like kind of bringing the power, like, to me, I look at the different communities within like iron sports, and it's like powerlifting by far seems to be the strongest. It's like bodybuilding, it's like we all kind of just shredded loners who like just go to the gym, then we go home, eat our meals and blah, blah. But it's like powerlifting is a lot more community based. And I feel like as you said, like with people like Kedrick joining, it's like do you feel as though there's a pretty, like, compared to the average gym, or like compared to the average like gym culture, do you think powerlifting gyms and your gym in particular will, like, generally people, like, I'm not talking results in terms of like, body comp, but it's more like, do you feel like people are going to learn more, and like do you feel like the culture becomes more conducive to like, I want to say like evidence-based practice, but more, I guess that is what I'm saying, but do you feel like it's more conducive to like safe lifting, or like safe but also productive, and like for instance, one of the things I'm really passionate about is hypertrophy as a mechanism for health. And like from the way I see it, it's like a very, very potent mechanism for health. And I think the barrier stopping people a lot of the time is like they'll go to a gym and there's no one fucking teaches you, like PTs a lot of the time. It doesn't feel as though it's like a long-term thing. Like, and it's like, but I feel like at a place like that, it's like, okay, if you're doing something really fucking stupid, someone will just come and say like, hey, what are you doing? Like, do you feel like it's much easier at a place like that for people to like lift safely, progressively for a long time?
It depends.
Yeah, yes, and I don't want to. Yes, I'd say yes. Like, it's more so. I don't know. I feel like, and this might sound a bit self-centered, but I feel like I have strong opinions on certain things in the I guess powerlifting sphere, fitness sphere, and it almost kind of scares people off the bullshit because I just have like no time for bullshit, and a lot of our members know that, right, Joel? Yeah. So like, if you roll into the gym and you get on the ground and you start foam rolling, like you're gonna get shit for it, right? Or if you spend 35 minutes doing prehab, like, I don't know, rolling around on the floor doing bloody camels or whatever you call them, I don't even know, dead bugs and shit like that, like people are gonna like look at you funny and like be like, what the hell, bro? I mean, it's not like we don't shame people, but like you might get a bit of stick for it, So I think if anything, like we just trim the fat, like we just go in and lift, like, and that's like you don't have anyone there like being like, oh man, I just started my keto diet. I'm just gonna, it's, you just don't get that shit because everyone kind of understands or has a baseline of understanding around like what essentially like we all stick to the basics for the most part. We don't fall for kind of fads, and I think that's kind of probably something that me and Joel have as personalities, and I guess it bleeds into the members, and it probably speaks for powerlifting. A lot of powerlifters as a whole, like they don't fall for a lot of shit. And I don't know. I'm not huge into the bodybuilding community, but I guess more so like what you were saying, the more commercial gym sort of environment is a bit more conducive to I guess, non-evidence-based practices, and
Mm.
that can it can kind of spread around a gym in a sense.
I guess the difference with us and what I've noticed, having done like bodybuilding and such in the past, people come into our gym and they're pretty happy to ask other people's opinions on what do you think of this, and it's an open thing, and there's no like, if someone says nah, that's dumb, like about foam rolling for 30 minutes before training or whatever, people don't get offended, I guess. So you can come in with a novel idea and talk to Jason, or I'm not an expert, but talk to me or talk to the other guys about it, and we'll give you opinions, and that's sort of how things evolve. But no, just to be clear, no one's told not to do certain things or whatever, because at the end of the day, what works for you works for you. And some people are prehabby people and whatnot, but like we won't hold back, just like having a bit of fun.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, yeah, I look at commercial gyms and it's like, even the ones that tend to be more like, oh, this is not a place you just go to do like whatever, body pump or whatever the fuck. It's like you go here to actually lift weights and like get strong and all that. I feel like there's just a degree of separation between, like, I don't know, like I guess powerlifting gyms are the only place where it really occurs, because in normal gyms it seems to be like, oh cool, like you can go in and do your whatever the fuck, and like I don't quite know what it is, but it's just something. I guess maybe it's also do you feel like it's the online aspect of it? Like, for instance, like there's all the people, like you guys all have like Instagrams and stuff, and then like you guys will follow people on Instagram, and I guess that's how you'll see like so did a 800-pound for 2 or whatever.
I think Ashton Rauska. I think
Follow him.
He's a freak. He could actually get on a bodybuilding stage. I think you get a taste for it in commercial gyms, like AUT, for example. Like I know you train at AUT every now and then. You get a taste for it, and it's like, if anyone's listening to this and they know what we're talking about, like say you roll up to the gym for the majority of the week at 5 o'clock on a Monday, and it's the same dudes there, and you kind of have a bit of conversation, and you kind of know what, it's a PB, right? Oh yeah, sweet. So I guess like when you go to a powerlifting specific gym or a niche gym, because I'm sure it's the same in like CrossFit or F45, it's just like that sort of like taste of it, but like on steroids. It's like if you are a person that goes to a commercial gym and you actually find yourself like really looking forward to catching up with those guys that sometimes come in and maybe working in with them, like I would implore those sort of people to join like niche gyms like that, because that's the environment that you get, but it's just 10 times better. And those people will be there, whereas a commercial gym, they might not be there, and you might just end up training by yourself. So I think like that. I think a lot of people might feel that they sort of get that in commercial gyms. So if you can envision what that's like, but like I said, 10 times like on steroids, like that's what you get in like a niche gym. And
steroids, but not on steroids. Just to be clear.
We're affiliated with the Drug Tested Federation.
Yeah.
But like, we saw that, like I said, I used to train at Just Workout, and then we saw that going to places like Get Strength, and you would go there and I was like, oh, this is kind of what we do, but just way better. And then we were like, we need this on the North Shore. And that's, that's kind of how that evolved.
Yeah. That's kind of been my resistance to being a personal trainer. 'Cause it's like, if I join a gym and then I don't know, I would just be doubtful that I would not just get frustrated at colleagues, because it's like I don't know, people talk a lot of shit about personal trainers, and like I don't think all of them are shit, like for sure, but it's like there's a lot that have no clue what they're doing, and it's just like I would be deeply like it would be a struggle to like sit there while you're like colleagues just doing some shit that doesn't work, or some shit that's actively dangerous. It's like, so it's just kind of like,
yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. Like I worked in commercial gyms for like 6-7 years, and I guess that's why I got out of there. Like I want to sit here and say like, oh, I got used to it, and it was, but I didn't really I just thought I've got to get, I always had an out, and that was through Northshore Barbell. So
Yeah.
it is hard. I mean, at times you just don't give a fuck, right? You just I worked as a personal trainer. It was horrible. I'd never do that again. But you just got to be a salesman more than anything.
Yeah.
But I understand a lot of people are good at it and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't really for me. But yeah, you're right. Commercial gyms are different in the sense, you are dealing with way more unsolicited advice, I think is a big one. And B, that advice is just, for the most part, bro science, and it's just and I, at the end of the day, 7 years in, I was just oh yeah, cool, that's really actually great idea. When in my head I'm fuck off, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I'm still quite a small dude, right? So it's I still get that kind of advice every now and then, and I'm just sitting there fuck me dead, bro. That is just
yeah.
But
I think that ties in really well with what we were saying before, because that's just you just don't get that shit. And actually a lot of people who come in, because for the most part, the people that come in that want to check out the gym is I'll talk to them, and a lot of people, they honestly they just want to come in and train somewhere where they're not going to be pestered, because it's a small gym and it's 24/7, and we don't have a huge membership base, and that what appeals to a lot of them is just the fact that they can just kind of train and not be disturbed. Because if you train in a commercial gym enough, people come and talk to you, try and give you advice and try and sell you their services, and some people just don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, and it's just you'll get those people where it's oh cool, you're naturally pretty jacked, but it's well, naturally I know, but whatever. But it's and it's just that kind of environment. It's just okay, cool. Who you look around the commercial gym and you're who actually knows their shit? And it's oh, cool, no one. Great. I don't know. It's just that's what I do find frustrating, because it's okay, cool. What do I do? Go and start a hypertrophy based gym? But it's how does that differentiate itself from an actual normal gym? So I guess that's where powerlifting has done quite a unique thing, and that's why I think you guys the gym you guys have it's really dope, because it's just that community aspect of it is I feel that's a lot of the crux of it. But one of the things that we kind of mentioned it before, and let me know how you guys feel about this question, and because it's quite a interesting one. Let me know what you guys think, though. If you guys don't want to touch on this, that is fine. I will delete this whole bit of me saying this. So it will look like it just didn't happen. So one of the things, and this is just basically a curiosity question, when it comes to steroids, in your gym,
fuck them.
Do you have what because so for instance, let me just lay my thoughts on the floor. Obviously I'm 70 kilos, I'm natural. I weigh 70 kilos, mate. If I was unnatural, that would be an issue.
You'd be asking for your money back.
Yeah, I would. So I personally I think steroids get way too much hate. I've interviewed quite a few people talking about the physiology of steroids, people who use them all the time. I know a number of people who use them and they or have I've known them when they're natural and then transition to unnatural, and it's so I don't think they're as terrible a thing as people make them out to be. However, I don't think people should be prescribed moral oh, you're a terrible person for using steroids. But I do think they are used inappropriately pretty much across the board, because people just don't understand how they actually work. So, but it's do you guys have a policy? For instance, if someone didn't want to compete, they didn't want to compete ever, they just used steroids, and they didn't bring them they just used steroids. Would that be would you guys find where do you guys personally draw the line when it comes? Can they bring them in their bag and then they'd forget it? What is because that's kind of the thing that I would find hard, because it's I think if you're a natty bodybuilder competing in natty federations and then you use steroids, blah blah, not the best. Breaking rules. But yeah, how do you guys, I don't know, it's probably not the case now, but it's if it does happen in the future, what would you, have you guys thought about that kind of thing?
I think, Joel, you start us off on that one. Joel's actually the liaison for the Drug Free Sport New Zealand and New Zealand powerlifting. So he's got a lot of. It's kind of an area of interest for you in a sense, Adriel. I've got a couple of thoughts, but you go first, mate.
I've got a really an interesting insight, I guess, because I worked in a supplement store for many years. And as we know, they tend to attract people that use illegal supplements for whatever reason. And you sort of learn a little bit about it there. For the record, Jason and I don't think anyone at the gym uses, right? So we compete in the IPF or NZPF. So we could be drug tested today if we want to. We sort of sign that away when we sign up with the NZPF. I don't think there's anything wrong with people using them, provided you're not breaking the rules of whatever sport you choose to participate in, whether that's natural bodybuilding or powerlifting. And the thing that's different with powerlifting to bodybuilding is the prominence of tested is a higher proportion of people doing tested powerlifting than tested bodybuilding. And that's what we really push for. A lot of people don't give themselves enough credit for what they can actually achieve naturally in terms of strength and what is achievable naturally. Like if someone was to join the gym who wasn't natural and they didn't compete and they weren't forcing their opinions down the throats of other members, that's not necessarily an issue. If they bought stuff into the gym, I think that would be an issue because most of our members are competitors. And the stance Drug-Free Sports takes on gear users is very much and the existence of it. And if you know people that use and are open about it, it can certainly cast a shadow on your own achievements, whether you do or don't use them. So, I mean, we don't have a policy, but I guess just by virtue of who we're associated with, it's not been an issue.
Yeah, I think like that's what I want to touch on. It's very different, right? So tested, and you probably a lot of your listeners would know this. Like tested powerlifting to untested powerlifting is very different. Like it's different sports. Yeah. It's like rugby union and rugby league, right? Very, very different sports.
Even being a New Zealander, I do not.
I coach rugby league. Right. You should understand.
I couldn't tell you 3 rules of rugby.
So anyway, like yeah, just very different sports, man. Like I mean, you could honestly, I mean, probably a lot of people fall like or they first exposures to powerlifting are through people like Larry Wheels or Russell Orhe, right? Yeah, Dan Green. But you can, if you go down one route, like the IPF, the drug tested route, you could completely not even realize that there is this whole other world of like juicy monsters. And well, whatever you want to call them. And that very much, I think maybe not so much in like America. There seems to be a bit more of a mix of the communities. I don't know, probably not a huge amount, but in places like New Zealand and Australia, it's very, very divided. I don't even know anyone that lifts in GPC, like personally. Like I think Joel knows a few from Christchurch and things like that. But I honestly don't know anyone, and like I don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't add anything to our business to kind of try and like be present in those competitions. Like we get enough out of the community that we're involved with, which is the drug-free community, and just walk in different paths for the most part, and it just they don't cross. We get maybe 1 or 2 that come from GPC, but what happens a lot of the time is like if someone like probably more so for my coaching business, people will inquire and say that they want to lift GPC, and I'm like, that's fine, but they just end up going the IPF route because that's like what I coach, and it just doesn't seem to cross that much. So, and what that means for the gym is like we're all IPF lifters, so we just really haven't had that as a I guess, and I wouldn't say an issue because I don't think it would be an issue, but as an occurrence, like we haven't had to kind of deal with that yet, and I can't foresee that happening in in a sense that it would actually be an issue. Let's say like a whole bunch of GPC lifters kind of joined, and there was like a steroid community growing. I just don't think that would happen because there's gyms that they do that stuff, and I don't mean like doing that stuff, but like training with their like mono lifts and the deadlift bars, because there's those specialty equipment that differs between drug tested and non-drug tested, which also separates the communities even further. So if you
is just one quick, is that
you're going
like difference in equipment? Is that mainly just due to like the fact that they just get so fucking strong? Like, is that why that exists?
It's honestly, if you ask someone from that side of the fence what the difference is, they'd probably say it's not much. It's really born out of what's the word, convenience, I suppose, and its roots. But like, you use a deadlift bar, it bends more when you lift heavier weight, and thus makes it easier to lift. Again, making it a different sport in a lot of respects. Like, you don't have to walk out your squat. You can wear wraps during your squat, things that allow you to lift more weight. They use a special squat bar, which apparently doesn't flex as much. But, if anyone's used an Alico bar and seen Ray Williams squat like 490, it doesn't bend much. It's got nothing to do with like the abilities, because if you plot it out on a graph, the overall population of untested isn't that much better, objectively speaking, than untested. It's just they prefer doing it because it allows them to lift more, not because they are stronger.
Yeah, I guess like my gripe with that is like it adds like another layer of ambiguity on top of the fact that they are already using steroids. So like you look at, like I said, Larry Wheels, right? Someone comes in and like, oh, well, Larry Wheels deadlifts 400 kilos or something. And it's like, yeah, but he's using a deadlift bar. Or you look at like the mountain deadlifting 501 kilos or whatever it was, Hatfield Bjornsson. And it's like, yeah, it's a deadlift bar. It's with straps. So like there's all those things that just further muddy the waters. So I think you add steroids on top of that, and it's like, well, it makes it less comparable. So that's what separates us further, just to kind of double back to what I was saying before. So, I don't watch or follow that many people who lift on deadlift bars and take steroids, because I'm like I like to watch people on Instagram, for example, and be like, how does that compare to me? Because I think I like to think that I'm, sort of competitive in a sense. So I like to compare myself to other people, and it's like, I'm not really, but I like to think that way anyway. I'm like that coach who just won't give it up. But it's just so different, man. Like I don't even think about it. If I see Jamal Browner lifting 440 kilos, I'm like, that's cool, but like I don't compare it to myself. It's different. It's just very different.
What we see with guys like that is when they're in the IPF, they pulled 350 and now they're pulling 440, and it's like, man, there's a lot coming out of that bone. Just to be clear, just because you lift in an untested federation doesn't mean you use gear, right? There's a lot of people that fall into it because their mates and stuff do it. It really just feels like a different activity entirely to us, and that would probably offend a few people, but whatever.
Yeah, because I feel like I feel a similar thing within natural bodybuilding. It's like when I talk to anyone like Gen Pop around bodybuilding, and they're like, oh, like Ronnie, I don't know any names, but they'll be like, big greased up bodybuilding. I'm like, yeah, you heard of Alberto Nunez? And they're like, no, like, and it's like, oh, cool, like, it's it does. I do definitely get what you guys mean. Like, it does feel like it's a whole different sport. Like natural bodybuilding, it's like, how big are you really gonna get? Like, some people will think you don't even lift. Like, you'll put a t-shirt on, no one knows you lift. Like, that's a lot of normal natural bodybuilders. Like some of the pro ranks, it's just like, and then you compare that to like a what do you say before, like a juicy meathead or something?
Yeah,
you say
juicy.
Yeah, you compare that to that, and it is a whole different thing. Like, no one's wondering whether Ronnie Coleman's lifting or not. Like, I think that is fascinating, because I guess from someone outside the world of powerlifting, it's like my grasp of the differences in the sports is quite like minor, and I guess it's because that's something I found quite interesting about you guys, Jim. It's like, it doesn't feel like the kind of place where it's not like, oh, you go there and you're like, you can ask someone in the corner like, hey, want some trend, like, No.
They'd be like, what's that?
There's not
Yeah.
enough space.
I think like just to kind of double on what you're saying, like to put a more positive spin on those that choose to take steroids, much like someone looking at Ronnie Coleman and that enticing them into bodybuilding, which down the line gets them into natural bodybuilding. You're not going to look at Alberto Nunez and be like, man, that guy's 70 kilos. I want to be like that. Like he's shredded. He's maybe shredded, but people want to get huge, right? They want to be unrealistically large. So Ronnie Coleman may entice them, but they might go down the route once they do a bit of a deep dive. It's similar in powerlifting. Like you might find powerlifting through Larry Wheels, but you may also come down the natural route from that. Like, and then once you kind of realize,
people,
like once you get that. I mean, that's how I found powerlifting, was through guys like Dan Green, and he's definitely not natural. But like you just, you make that conscious decision not to go down that route once you kind of realize, because I mean, everyone's a little bit, I guess, ignorant to the fact that most people are on the steroids. But once you kind of figure that out, and it's like, oh, actually, there's options, and that's what I think some people don't think. And it's probably even bigger in bodybuilding. But like, people just think, oh, if you do powerlifting, well, you take steroids and you get fat, and you become morbidly obese, and put a squat suit on. It's like, man, there's like people like Russell Orr who are jacked and lean and only 83 kilos.
Yeah, I do definitely agree. And I think it's like that I think, as you mentioned before, it's like there's that kind of, once you get competitive with it, like once you think of yourself as like within that sport, whether how competitive you are, like myself as a bodybuilder, it's like, okay, mate, like, but it's like, I still feel competitive about it, right? And it's like, I'm not going to go around comparing myself to like Ronnie Coleman, because it's like, bro. But it's like, pro natural bodybuilders, like, okay, I'm still fucking far off them, but like, it's not like worlds away. Like it's only like 5 streets. So it's
That's like I'm saying, like you look at it, and you're like, well, maybe not now, but oh man, like I feel like I could get there.
Exactly.
Whereas if you look at those guys, you're like, oh shit, I'll probably never get there,
Yeah, it's just a whole other fucking game. It's like, I feel like, and I don't think like people who take steroids, it's like it's not like it makes it. I don't necessarily think it makes it easier. Like I think it in some ways probably makes it a lot harder, because there's like a lot more like risk and burden from it. But it's like it's still the same. You still do the same shit, and maybe some of the shit slides. But I definitely think I do find it fascinating, like the difference between the two. But I think that competitiveness of yourself being an athlete, whether how serious you consider yourself as an athlete, like for myself, it's like, yeah, that is the thing that makes me like, oh shit, natural bodybuilding is pretty dope. Like that kind of, I guess, shows that line. Yeah. I would like to finish off with how are we doing for time? I'd like to finish off with one more question. It's kind of quite a cute question. So one thing that I find I did episode 100 of this podcast was kind of focused on it was kind of like focused on social isolation within entrepreneurship. Like it's like the fact is, like, I spend a lot of Friday nights just working in my room. Like that's just what has to happen, right? Like, and I think anyone who is like, I don't know if you guys consider yourselves like entrepreneurs. I guess I hate that word in some ways, but it's kind of cringy, but it is kind of what it is. It's hard to get around the fact, but it's like when you start any kind of project with growth in mind, it's like that inherently is along those lines, right? And then I think one thing that I've thought about quite a lot is how do you feel as though having a partner while doing this thing, like how has that kind of influenced that aspect of it? Because it's like you guys can bounce ideas off each other, and like you're both kind of in the same boat. And like for me, when I like the kind of people, I don't have anyone else in my business. Like it's just me. So it's like I don't have anyone who works for me or works with me. It's like it's just that one thing. But I can like go to friends and I can sort of talk to them about it, people who do similar stuff. But I guess being in it together, like, do you feel like that changes the
100%.
Yeah.
I'll touch on that real quick. Like, I think I'd be fucked if it wasn't for Joel, and probably vice versa. well, he would definitely be fucked without me, but no. Honestly, like when it started, I actually just kind of said to Joel, I think I want to just do this on my own. And he was like, well, I want to do the same thing. And then it just seemed like the right thing to just kind of mold together and I guess just, figure out a business partnership. But we are pretty lucky in the sense that like we are very opposite in the kind of our way of thinking. So like I actually wanted to say this at the start. I can't remember if I did or not. I don't think I did. But like the way the business works is essentially like I'm in there every day and I'm trying to not be in there every day at the moment just because working from home and shit. But for the most part, I'll be in there every day and I'm like the, I guess, front of office person. And, if you sign up or you come in, then I'll have a yarn to you and we'll talk about training and, figure out what a membership option might be. And then, if someone needs a spot, then I'm in there for that. Joel has a whole nother job. So like, this is his, I guess, side hustle, if you will. But Joel does all the other stuff. So he does, if you follow us on social media or you read our articles, Joel does all that stuff. So all the behind the scenes stuff. And that works really well because I fucking hate doing that stuff. Like I hate social media and like being corny and things like that, but it just needs to be done at times, right? But Joel's happy to like undertake that and do that. Whereas like, I feel like our exposure would be far limited if he wasn't doing that. But, to blow my own horn, like I'm the one that is the coach, right? And I have the experience in coaching people. So he essentially exposes people to us and then they come in and then I guess I have that touch point with them because of those things that he does to get them in. I mean, a lot of our stuff is word of mouth as well. So like, I don't want to give him too much credit, but like it works really well in that sense. And Joel's far more business minded than me. I'm more sports science coaching minded. So those go really well. And he doesn't overstep his boundaries in terms of that. And I don't go the other way. So, like often, like you mentioned, have bouncing ideas off each other and all that sort of stuff. Like he'll kind of just take the lead on the business stuff. Obviously we kind of, if it's a big decision or whatever, then we'll definitely talk over it. But for the most part, like, apart from buying shit, because Joel loves to just blow his money, then I've got to talk him off the ledge on that one. But like, for the most part, like he'll take, tell that to his wife. But it's like we certain areas we take the lead on, but we do bounce ideas off each other. So I think the whole mold of it kind of works really well, and we've happened to fall into something quite good there. And we're pretty understanding of like what our roles are, and just kind of making sure that we touch base on things, but certain, we don't have to go over everything, else we wouldn't have time to nothing would ever get done, because I never want to do anything and Joel wants to do everything. So I think, so in that sense, and I think the partnership works really well. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it on my own. I mean, I think I could have got it done, but it just wouldn't have had the same success, I don't think.
Yeah, that's something where I look at it and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm in some ways envious. It's like I do wish that there was someone where I could sort of make a joint venture, but then it's like that's a whole other thing, because it's like, but I guess maybe that will happen in future. But
I think that, man, if like, you mentioned it a couple of times, like, if it is something you want to do, you just got to set a long-term plan for it. Like, and you just start so small. Like start in your garage. Like
no, I mean actually having a partner. Like I wouldn't even begin to know, like, how do you even begin to bring someone in? Because it's like, oh, cool. Like, am I trying to say that you should work for me? Like, I don't. What am I going to pay you? Like,
it's different like, depending on what you're trying to achieve. For us, it was pretty organic. Like Jason says, I'm really like business minded because I work for a corporate, and I'm involved with that side of things. And I look at someone like Jason, who's got a shitload of talent as a coach, and that's reflected in his clients' work and all that kind of thing. I'm like, I just wanted to tell people about him, and if like we can also grow the community of powerlifting outside of just our gym, well, that's probably going to result in more people coming in and seeing us. And like, I don't know, I think the fact that for us it was just like we're mates, and it happened organically has really helped, as opposed to someone coming in and like bankrolling the idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be akin to like, you just finding that guy at the gym that you train with every now and then like it just evolved. It's a very similar sort of scenario. It just evolved like that.
Yeah.
And, we both probably knew, like, out of all the people that trained there, we were a little bit more serious about it. So it kind of like was like, seemed like the natural thing to like, when I said, oh, I want to kind of take this a bit more seriously, like Joel was the first person I contacted. Like it wasn't anyone else, because I knew that was kind of something that's where I needed to have the conversation, and that's where the whole sort of partnership developed.
Yeah, it's something I think I'll think about more as time goes on, like something I'll stew on, because it's definitely something that like I look into quite a lot, because I see a lot of these businesses that, like for instance, Renaissance Periodization, Vive Stronger, like 3DMJ, it's like they're all groups of people, and I do find it interesting, and I think it's something that is a decision you probably need to think about before doing. Like I wouldn't just want to obviously join with anyone, but it's definitely no. I think it's quite cool.
So are you more so speaking in the sense of like your online coaching business?
Yeah, well, like it's like putting out infographics and shit, right? It's like those take fucking ages, and it's like podcasts. It's like, and I'm trying to sort of take YouTube a little bit more seriously, and I don't know. It's I don't want to spread myself too thin.
Yeah, you can't do it all, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. Yeah, because I love the infographics, because it's just like people. I see how many saves they get, and it's just like holy shit. Like people actually give a shit. Like people want to learn, and that I find beautiful. And it's like podcasting. It's like, to me, it's like storytelling in its purest form. And then like coaching, to me, like you probably understand, like coaching is just like it is really, really amazing. Like it's really cool. But it's like, and I want to do them all, but it's like, and
at what cost, eh?
Yes, exactly. So we'll see. Maybe I'll go meditate on it or something.
I think like definitely having some form of partnership helps. Like, and like you said, all those coaching groups that you named are successful due to partnership.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my coaching, like, I have my own coaching business, which is separate from the gym, and that could probably be better. And, I actually had a partner, but he, kind of got into the real world. But that could be better if I had someone else in that as well, because, it is isolating, like you mentioned earlier. And I wanted to touch on that because I think that's can you reiterate that, what you were saying previously, like about like how entrepreneurship and isolation? Because I think that's an important thing.
I think it's very isolating. It's like, for instance, like, so it sounds kind of like weird. So it's like, I'm 21, right? Like most people my age, they just want to like, do normal 21-year-old shit. Like, and like a lot of the shit that I like to do, like, interview people with PhDs and, make infographics about exercise science. It's like, it's very like, oh, cool. What the fuck is that? Like, or I'm like, oh, do you know what RPE is? And they're like, no, like shit like that.
Isolates
like,
you even further, eh?
Yeah, like the things that I give a shit about, no one, not many people my age, except those that I know through the podcast and like online communities, like those are the kind of people who know. But like, if I go to a party like of people my age and I'm like talking to them and I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I love Netflix. And I'm like, fuck, I don't care. Like, it's just
next
like,
person.
Yeah, like it's mainly that. It's like, especially when it's like online, like I have like two communities, right? It's like real life, like my real life friends, and then like online hypertrophy. It's like there's a whole, like there's a group of people that I consider my friends that I've never met, and it's just like, they're not. I've never met them in real life, and it's a whole, like that is it does make me sad, because it's like, oh well, one day I'll meet these people, but for how long? Like we're never all going to live in the same country, and like that would be impractical. And it's like these people don't even know each other individually. So, but then
sorry, go on, mate.
Like my real life friends, I'm like, oh, you want a gym? They're like, yeah, kinda. And I'm like, oh wow, So it's, and I appreciate the difference between them, but it's like very few people, like at my age, I think maybe it's exacerbated, but I think probably at your guys' ages as well. It's like the people who understand like doing something that is like a little bit more of a like, oh, this is a dream. Like this is not this thing. like a lot of people will go to the job and they'll be like, fuck, I hate my job. And it's like, I don't want to be in that situation ever. Like, I don't want to be like, fuck, I hate my life because I don't like what I do. Like, I never want to be there. And it's like,
yeah, I think what you said there like actually ties in well with what I was saying before, because like, you know, you probably go through a day, right, where you learn all this shit that you just want to tell people about, right? Like you know, you're reading up on whatever's Instagram, you're listening to whatever podcasts, and it's like super specific hypertrophy based stuff, and you just want to tell your mates about it, and they couldn't give two fucks, right?
yeah.
And like that's what I was saying before. Like that's what we have at Northshore Barbell is like you have those 2 hours a day and 45-minute rest periods where you just talk shit and you get out all the stuff that you had seen throughout the day in relation to lifting, and like that's what we talk about for the majority of time. And I think like I see my lifestyle in a very similar sense to yours. Like I have my other friends that don't give a shit about lifting, and I have my friends that all we talk about is lifting.
Yeah.
So like I think it's honestly really good to have both, man, because you don't want your whole life just to be, I mean, not to give you fucking life advice or whatever, but like,
No, yeah. Well, like
it
I saw
does
my other friends
become-
last night, and like we didn't talk about lifting, and it's like that
Yeah.
is, it's refreshing. Like
yeah,
I couldn't just think about hypertrophy all the time. Maybe
Yeah.
just most of the time.
yeah. So like, and that if you have those few hours where you go to the gym where you can blurt all that stuff out, I think that's really important. And then, just because like, if you work on your own, it is very isolating. Like I'm the same, man. Like I say I work in the gym, but most of the time I'm here sitting on the computer talking to myself, so I think, you get that out, and then, you spend that other time kind of away from it. Cause at the end of the day, when you're away from it a little bit, it makes you appreciate it a little bit more. But, I think that's the cool thing about having an environment conducive to those conversations is like you're with like-minded people, and at the end of the day, like powerlifting is the thing that we're probably most passionate about, apart from, of course, our lovely partners. But like that's the thing that we care a lot about, so we want to talk about it. And if we didn't have, like, if I didn't have that medium or that environment, or it had to be online, like I don't know if it would be as enjoyable. Like
It's how you end up seeing snippy comments on people's Instagram feeds.
yeah, because you can't talk shit about it in real life.
Yeah, we'll talk shit about like dumb stuff we've seen in real life and get it off our chests.
And like, man, honestly, like you should come into the gym around the period where like a world champs is on, man, and the place is like buzzing. Like we have we have the replays on, and all anyone's talking about is like what happened in this flight, like the second deadlift, and like
And we've probably all woken up at 3 a.m. to watch it.
yeah, it's just like it's a different. I mean, the lifting's generally trash because all we care about is like what else is going on. But it's like that just really shows you how much people like are vested in the sport.
That's something that I find is really like, that's why like I think you might be aware, Jason, but I don't know, Joel, if you know, like I have like basically I've got a bunch of metal in my spine. So it's relatively impractical for me to do like the big three. And it's like, that's the thing I find so cool about powerlifting. It's like, damn, like just the way that it's logistically set up, like communities kind of just foster out of that, right? And it's like in bodybuilding, that just doesn't happen. And man, I think it is so damn cool. Like it's just
maybe
like
once we get a few more machines, you can come by and hang out every so often, because
do some rows.
I get what you mean. My
think, like-
wife doesn't care for powerlifting too much, but she loves being part of it.
I think the cool thing though is like, even if like, I'm not saying you specifically, but like for anyone who just kind of rocks up to Northshore Barbell, like if we don't give a fuck what's on the bar. Like, like I don't like, obviously if someone rolled in and squatted 400 kilos, I'd be like, holy shit. And I would, but like if you are doing anything between 250 kilos and I don't know, 100 kilos, like no one cares. Like I said, we're there to talk shit, and like, that's a big barrier that people come across. Like they'll message me or the gym and be like, oh yeah, I'll come in, I just want to get this comp out of the way first, I want to hit these numbers. And I'm like, bro, no one cares. Sorry, if you're squatting between 160 kilos and 240 kilos, it's like it's all the same shit. Like it doesn't matter. We've seen it a million times. Like I said, we watch powerlifting all the time. Like I think that's something that scares people off that really shouldn't, because at the end of the day, it's kind of selfish, I guess it is. Like, people aren't there to like watch you lift. They're there to do their own lifting and then talk some shit and get that sort of stuff, like I said, out of the way. Like, just talk shit about powerlifting. Like, no one, like, half the time, like, you could ask me, I should probably asking me is a bad idea because I coach half the people in there. But like, you could ask someone like, "Oh, what did this person do today?" And they'd be like, "I don't know. I wasn't really watching." Like, no one watches. Like, I think that's a barrier that people come across when, especially when you strength gym, powerlifting gym. They're like, "Well, I'm not a powerlifter." It's like, oh man, it's just because we like the sport.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's what I find really cool about it. Like, I feel like in commercial gyms, there's like no community-based aspect, or very rarely. Like in my gym, that there kind of is, just because I'm good friends with the manager, have been for like many years. So it's like there's that, but I'll talk to like a few people in there, but it's not like you go there to socialize. And it's like, that's something that I find so damn cool about it. It's like the fact that you can socialize there. I find that's really dope.
I think people underrate it too. Like, through the lockdown, people have kind of like, and I've seen this through my clients and even in my own lifting, like, by all means, some people have thrived, right? But like that whole, and I don't want to say it's like all motivating environment, but I think it's just, training around people that like lifting heavy and people who are kind of like-minded training with you. It boosts your training, man. Like, it's not even like me, no, it's not a group of us sitting there yelling, being like, come on, cunt, let's go, come on, 3 more. It's like, it's just people doing the same shit around you and like a higher energy environment.
Yeah.
If you go to a commercial gym, man, you can go in there and be drained, like, because people kind of like whinging and like, and it's just a different buzz. Obviously we get people that come in and that, are not having the best day, and that can bleed into the gym. But I think for the most part, people are just there to get after it, and you don't have to explicitly be like yelling at people to get after it. It's just kind of like you walk in and you're like, okay, I'm here to do some work. Like when I'm doing my set, I need to be working because everyone else is. So it just kind of bleeds across the whole sort of the gym.
Yeah. No, that's something that I find really cool about it. Like, I've seen those videos where I can't remember. I think it was Evie Corrigan. She was squatting there, and there was like a bunch of people around, and everyone was like waiting, and everyone was like, she got it. Like, everyone like was like congratulating her as she got it. And it's so cool. It's like, if you saw that in a commercial gym, you'd be like, what's going on? Like, what on earth? But it seems like that would be a much more like normal thing. But so I think we should finish it off here. Is there in terms of where people can find you guys, like, a lot of people that listen to this won't be, in Birkenhead, but like, you guys' social media, where can people find that? And then where actually is the gym? And then, if people do want coaching or anything else like that, where can people go?
Joel, you on that one, mate? You're the business-minded one.
Yeah. Just find us on Instagram at Northshore Barbell. Hit up our website. We post on there a bit. We're trying to give a bit more exposure to the wider New Zealand powerlifting community at the moment. So diversifying, if you will. I don't coach, so I can't sell my services, but I'll probably be your friend. So you can follow me at Joel_NSBB.
Don't you have a sponsorship that you could potentially shill here, Joel?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's worth noting that we, as well as having the gym, we've sort of looked for other partners in the community to give us a boost. And thankfully, through some connections, we wound up having an affiliation with A7 Oceania in loaded lifting. So an Australian-based like powerlifting strongman gear website. And they, through our affiliation with them, it sort of just goes towards refurbishing the gym and new bits and pieces of equipment. And we're pretty thankful for that. So if you want some stuff from them, use code NSBB at loadedlifting.com.
And as for me, I think it's Jason V Clark _PPS from memory on Instagram, but I do coaching, but I'm pretty full on at the moment. Just it's pretty hectic getting everyone back underway. Are you dealing with the same thing?
Yeah.
Like now that they're joining the gym again?
Yeah. It's like, well, for me, like, a lot of my clients are international, so they're still going through it. Like, I don't actually have any clients in New Zealand. Like, all of them are abroad. So like pretty much every other country. I don't think any of my clients are like out of it yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm bracing for the brunt though. Once like when it started, it was a mess. Like
yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, you can contact me for coaching on that, but it's just pretty hectic at the moment. But I'll always get back to you. And I think just like to tie it up with the gym, if you're an international listener and you're traveling through Auckland, come in, fucking hang out. We'll give you a session. And if you are if you live in Auckland, by all means, come and trial the place out. Like I said, I'll be there most days, kind of hanging out, talking to my computer, doing my check-ins, and we are always very friendly. So don't, by any means, avoid us. We appreciate anyone coming through.
We love going to gyms overseas and in Aussie, like think Obsidian Strength and City Strength, all those kind of places, and like we want to foster an environment that they feel comfortable to come see us too.
Boom.